Ghosticles time. It's Ghosticles time. It's ghosty, misty. I always forget what I say there.
I don't know.
Posty, toasticles, time.
Toasticles.
And it doesn't have anything to do with testicles.
Says you.
It doesn't. I don't think.
Know. It makes me think of testicles.
Well.
Maybe that's on me. Maybe
the testicles.
Maybe I'm just
more
a man.
you than moi.
Maybe I'm just a man obsessed.
Obsessed. How you feeling?
Better. The cough is mostly gone.
Yeah, same.
Comes back at night. Right as I'm about to go to bed, it's like, well, hang on, wait.
Right.
But
did you want to sleep? No, you're gonna cough. Yeah, a little bit of that. Most of it's gone, but I'm on, much more powerful medication, including an antibiotic that has got me.
You are.
Troubled.
You are
I don't
just
like it. I'm fuzzy.
You're fuzzy. Like I can't even see you. You're so fuzzy.
I can't
like
see
you're just
you
out
either.
of focus.
I'm very out of focus. But we're on the road to the mend.
Yeah.
Going to be back.
You sound better.
Thank you. You sound much better.
Thank you.
Not that you sounded that off anyway.
Same to you, but I mean, you sound like more. You sound more like the Jamie I've always known.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's nice to know that we're still, even though we're still not 100%, we're still here for you guys.
And
to scare the shit out of you.
Thank you, everyone
with
who
your own
sent
stories.
in their well wishes. We really appreciate those.
Yeah, you guys are so nice.
Really like that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, the nicest, coolest fans.
And we're already getting some ideas for the Patreon, which, if you did not hear it from our last episode, we announced it. We will be starting a Patreon on October 1st to celebrate our 1-year anniversary of this podcast.
I can't believe it's been almost a year.
I know.
Just a few weeks away from being a year. Holy shit.
I know.
How does that happen?
It's one day at a time.
Kind of awesome. One day at a time.
52 episodes. At a time?
52. Well, I think we're
closing in.
We might have missed one.
Yeah, we missed a couple of weeks here and there.
So, but 50. Definitely 50. By the time we get there, it'll be 50. And that's something.
I feel like so. But
I'm proud of us.
I am too.
And I am proud of our listeners because they've helped us through.
They've helped us, yes. And new listeners, we're just so appreciative of everybody that's helping us do this because we love it. Obviously, because we were dying last week and we still did it. But yeah, so continue to let us know. We just are looking for, the kind of content you guys want to hear. Right. And that is also not going to kill us to do. There's that part of it as well. Yeah, we would love to do so many things, but then it's like, how
that's a lot. We're only 2 people.
Likely is it we're going to want to do that
all the time,
every week.
Yeah,
and sometimes it's not likely, so we might just change some stuff up. We don't know.
Yeah,
we don't know. We just decided to do what we did with the podcast, which is like we need a motherfucking date, and let's just say this is when it's going to start, and then we're going to have to do it. And so now that we did it, we're going to have to get ready.
We are flying by the seat of our pants.
That's right.
Which is a good way to do this kind of thing, I think.
It's a very spiritual thing.
Very spiritual. We're just it's where the spirit takes us.
That's right.
Or spirits, in this case.
Okay, I guess I'll start.
Yes, you start, because you've got a couple short ones, and I have a nice long one.
Well, I have a short one and a medium, and you have a very long one.
And I have it's like a long and a medium. It's like it's worth a long and a medium. It's very long. It's a good, chunky.
It's a good one.
Juicy.
It's a juicy story.
Like Campbell's thick and chunky.
I like it.
Story.
All right, you ready?
Ready.
This is from Jordan.
Hey, Jordan.
When I was 7, my family moved into my grandparents' old home after they moved into their new place. That happened to my parents moved into my grandparents' old place. I'm sure that happens a lot. Okay. This house had always given me the creeps, especially at night. When I would stay with my grandparents, I would hear all manner of noises coming from other rooms. I would get out of bed and peek out the door to see if anyone was awake, but nobody was ever there, and the noise would stop. Being a kid, I felt like much of my experience in that house was more in my mind than reality, except for one particular incident that still haunts me to this day. They didn't say to this day, but I felt like it needed it because I paused weird. Okay.
Nice save there, Jamie.
To this day, confessions. Okay. After we moved in, I kept hearing things at night, and when I was alone, I felt like I was being watched. I would get so freaked out, I would go to my parents' room till I calmed down. One night, I woke up to what sounded like someone calling out my name and knocking on my door. Thinking it was my brother, I get up out of bed and open it to see nobody there. Feeling a little nervous, I decide to check in his room, hoping it was him, only to find him asleep. In a panic, I began to make my way to my parents' room at the end of the hall. To my surprise, I see my mom standing out in the doorway. I can't make out her features, but it looked just like her. I call out to her, but she doesn't even respond. The closer I get, the harder she was to see. The door shuts in front of me, and I reach out trying to open it, but it feels like my mom is holding the handle. "Mom," I yell out, "why won't you let me in?" I say, starting to cry and pushing the door with all my strength. Finally, I get the door open, only to find my mom still asleep. I woke her up, asking her why she wouldn't let me in the room. She looked at me in confusion, asking me what I was talking about. It wasn't the last paranormal experience I had in that house. 3 or 4 years later, while we were moving, we pulled up to the house up in flames.
Ooh.
Yes! Such a good short little story.
Yeah.
The whole seeming like to be mom and then not letting you in, and then you get in, and
I don't like it.
It gave me goosebumps.
I don't like
I have
it.
goosebumps right now.
I know. It's not just from the antibiotics.
No, it might partially be.
It's from the story.
It is from the story. It is from the story.
Ooh, that was good.
It's a good one. Thank you, Jordan.
Yeah. And then the house on fire.
Oh yeah.
I knew a guy that told me a story once about a house they lived in that caught fire, but like they had a year or two of just things going fucking batshit in this house.
Yeah.
Paranormal wise, and then it ended with the house burning up for no apparent reason. Although I think if memory serves, I believe the cap to the story was that the fire department found proof of arson, but it wasn't anyone, like, they didn't set it.
Right.
And yeah, they were in the house when it started to burn. So yeah, I need to go contact that friend and ask them about that story, because I forget all the details. I just remember like it ended with the house like going up in flames. I was like, oh, that sounds like a really good movie.
Yeah.
A terrifying movie, but a good one.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I just got distracted. Brandon is texting me.
Oh, hi.
He knows we're
how's
recording
Brandon
this.
doing?
No, I'm not going to reply.
I just saw him this morning before he left for work.
Like, he knows we are recording today.
See. Well, he doesn't know what time we do it exactly, but he might all just think, well...
It's true. I don't know. I'll talk to him later. I just thought it was funny. So, okay.
He texted me the same thing.
Oh, he did? Okay.
It's a good thing, don't worry.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so shall I dive into the long story? Okay, this is from Bonnie. Bonnie says, "Hey, Jamie and Michael."
Hi, Bonnie.
She said that she met you, Jamie, at Planet Comic-Con in Casey last year.
It's a great convention.
She was a volunteer superhero, like in charge of like one of the parts of the convention floor. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so this is her sending in a story because you had reminded her to.
Yes. Tell me who you... we do that a lot. If we meet you at a convention, we'll say, remind me who you were, so that we can remember talking to you. She
says that she had showed you some pics on her phone of her in her gender bend formal Death the Kid cosplay.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So... says Bonnie, I've been on a couple of overnight paranormal investigations and have helped lead a few myself, but the story I'm sharing here happened before I'd ever done anything like this. And even now, after having done actual investigations and experienced investigators, it is this experience that easily stands out as the one that convinced my extremely skeptical mind that paranormal fuckery is as real as anything that I have that I've experienced with my other senses but have never seen. In the same way that we can feel hot or cold without being able to physically see the specific stimulus that touches our skin and elicits those responses, yet we know they are real.
I just want to give a shout out to paranormal fuckery.
It's a great
strong term.
Hashtag paranormal fuckery.
I love
it's a great. We're going to use that.
Yes.
That belongs on a fucking t-shirt.
Yes.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Bonnie goes on to say, I'm a horror film and lit fangirl. I'm a horror film and literature fangirl. It's like, I'm a lit fangirl. I'm reading it weird too. Fuck, I'm not even on antibiotics.
Maybe you need to be.
There you go. Just hand me a few. I'm a horror film and literature fangirl and have been since I was about 10 due to some questionable parenting choices. Relatable. I've also been fascinated with the paranormal, but I've also had an extremely skeptical and even cynical way of viewing things. If I was ever going to believe in the paranormal, it would only be because I personally experienced something that I could not possibly explain away. The thing that happened in 2014, during a short, normal, non-paranormal focused tour of the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado.
Yes.
I had never been to the mountains, but I had a new friend, Lissa, that lived near Denver. I asked her about the Stanley. She told me it was a very short drive into the mountains and that she had stayed there several times. We decided to drive up and see it. Once we got to the small town of Estes Park, I immediately felt like I was home. Home is in all caps.
Ooh.
I fell instantly in love with this small mountain town, which was unexpected.
Really cute. It is such a cute town.
I need to go. Which was unexpected, she said, because I'm a city girl who bitches and whines about going outside in sub-65-degree weather. I mean, I get that.
But it's a higher altitude, so she's probably a little high anyway.
Right, literally. We decide to go straight to the Stanley to see if we could get in on any of the tours. Part of what I love about the paranormal is the human stories that are involved.
Same. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, obviously.
The history and experiences of those that have led to this residual energy being so strong as to continue to manifest and affect our living world. Right. Because of this, I was very excited to take any tour of this historical building. Prior to my first visit, I did not know anything about reported paranormal activity at the Stanley. I knew only that Stephen King was staying in the hotel when he got the inspiration for The Shining. And given my skepticism and need to explain things, this is important as it rules out the possibility of any type of placebo effect or self-fulfilling prophecy. The human brain is a powerful, powerful thing that can unintentionally manifest personal experiences, which can lead us down the rabbit hole of what determines whether something is real or not. But I'm gonna shove that squirrel into a box and lock it away during this story.
Connie gets us. She totally gets us.
Yeah,
I love it.
Lissa and I were able to join the general historical tour of the Stanley. There are a few things about me that I need to share to further set up the facts of the story. I'm also an amateur photographer, and in those days, I carried my semi-professional DSLR camera everywhere I went. Of course, I had it with me on this tour. I prefer to shoot in natural light, so I had a really fast lens on my camera that could get the shot without the need for a lot of light. Also, I love spiders. It is a capital crime in my house to kill a spider unless it has been determined by me to be one of the only 2 truly dangerous spiders in Missouri, the state I live in. If I see a spider and I'm certain it isn't seriously dangerous, I will pick that motherfucker up for a closer look.
Oh, God, no.
You lost me there, Bonnie. Sorry.
I know. Sorry. Tapping out on Bonnie on that
one. Part of the historical Stanley tour involves going into the underground caves that served as an employee entrance. The caves are separated from the bottom floor of the hotel by a single normal door. As our tour group was standing in the poorly lit caves, I felt something tickling the back of my left calf. I immediately looked around to see if someone else on the tour had brushed me, or if someone was wearing a dress or skirt that could have been stirred by a breeze and brushed my leg. There was no one close enough to have accidentally touched me. The type of touch I felt was a gentle tickle, not a bump or a single touch that could come from someone fucking with me by touching me and then pretending not to. Seeing no one around that the touch could have come from, I decided it was probably a spider or something crawling on my leg, but when I looked at that part of my leg, I couldn't see anything with my naked eyes. I remembered that the lens on my camera was so fast it could sometimes catch stuff in a dimly lit area that I might not be able to see with my own eyes. So the next time I felt the tickling, while it was actively occurring, I shifted my camera to point down and took several quick shots of the back of my calf, hoping to get a picture of my new spider friend. I got several shots off before the feeling ceased. The sensation was far more substantial than a simple breeze could account for. When I looked at the pictures in my camera later, I could clearly see my bare calf with nothing else in the frame that would explain the source of the sensation while I took those pictures. As the tour we took focused more on the history, it didn't touch much on the paranormal reports. We continued on the tour, and my brain sort of pushed that tickling experience out of my head. Flash forward to a few months later, after I'd become more familiar with the range of paranormal activity reported on the property, and I found that an overnight paranormal investigation was available at the Stanley. Ooh. My friend and I bought tickets and went on our first ghost hunt.
Yes.
We were super excited and probably a little more chatty than was respectful during the orientation beforehand, but as the investigators were wrapping up their introductions and we were preparing to walk to the first area, they list a few unexplained things that people have reported experiencing in the Stanley. I suddenly stopped chatting with Lissa, and my head snapped up because one of the guides said, quote, "Some people have reported that they will feel an unexplained tickling sensation on their bare skin."
That happened to you, Bonnie. It happened to you.
That got my attention because I experienced the tickling long before I knew it had been experienced by others, and I was so convinced of its physical veracity that I attempted to take pictures of what I was certain was a spider or some other real, physically visible stimulus. I had also never told anyone about the experience other than Lissa, and that was just because she wondered why I was randomly taking pictures of the back of my leg at the time.
I enjoy, though, that she's like, "Oh, it must be a spider. I'm going to take a picture," as opposed to, "Oh, it must be a spider. I'm going to freak out now." That's my, that would be my, it's a spider, get it off.
Respect.
Yeah.
All of this meant that the usual debunking of such an experience was immediately discarded. If I literally had zero knowledge that others had experienced what I did, then my brain couldn't have just manifested the sensation as some type of subconscious brain trick. The photos I took confirmed that the sensation didn't come from anything physically explainable. I had initially dismissed it as a random sensation that all people sometimes feel. It had been so completely dismissed as normal that I completely passed it out of my memory, only to be reminded of it in the minutes before our first ghost hunt. The other things I experienced that night were also significant, which I'm happy to share, but I tend toward the verbose, and this is already long enough. But in the years that have passed, my scientifically inclined brain has tried to reason some of them away. It hasn't been entirely successful, but any time I begin to fall too much on the side of doubt, all I have to do is remind myself of that first experience, and I have no choice but to believe. Footnote, I have felt that same tickling sensation one time since that first experience. It was during my most recent investigation at the Harris Kearney House in Kansas City about a month ago. Bonnie,
Tickle.
I just love your whole take on the thing. I love you took us on a journey.
It was a journey. It was a good journey.
And I appreciate that you whipped out that camera and you took that picture and then you're like, oh, I love that you pieced it together.
I know. Well,
it's great. It's great. Gives a lot of heft to the story.
Yeah. Well, just being able to be challenging to the obvious, that your mind will play tricks on you. Mm-hmm. If you go in expecting certain things, you may experience them just because your mind is making them happen. So it's hard to know if you are actually having an experience with the paranormal or if you are creating an experience on your own. Mm-hmm. That's true. It's very true. And so I'm glad you brought that up. But that, when you don't have expectations, you don't know what to expect. It's pretty crazy. Okay, so
it's kind of awesome. That's kind of awesome.
Theme.
Yes.
This one's about the Stanley Hotel too. Nothing. You're looking at your text.
Sorry, Brandon texted me too.
So fucking rude.
Say that again, because oh my God. Man, I really do need those antibiotics.
You do.
So this is also for the Stanley?
This is also for the Stanley.
Is a Stanley Hotel kind of day.
It is.
I feel like our destiny
Stanley Day.
I feel like the destiny of this podcast is pointing for us to go to the Stanley.
Or at least Estes Park. They have
both.
Maybe why not? Those cute little towns, and they got like the little fudge shops and the funny T-shirt shops, and you can go get ice cream, and they have like.
I love mountain towns. I love mountains. Too. I love mountains. They're like Brandon puts it this way, and I love it. They're like a hug from Mother Earth.
It's true. It's true. Brandon is like.
Although the story I'm doing for our next episode has to do with mountains.
Yeah. Not a hug.
Well,
not a hug.
Maybe a hug that just turned into something more threatening.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of the mountains, this is from Hallie or Haley.
Okay.
It's Halley.
Okay.
I want to say Hallie.
Say Hallie. And if it's actually Haley, we're really sorry, Hallie.
I know.
But
okay. I want to read it. Okay. Let me reiterate. I want to say Haley, but I read it as Hallie. Okay. So I'm going to say Haley.
But you're going to mean Hallie. Maybe.
Yes. All right.
This is a great way to get Haley or Hallie to write back and be That's like, right. just it's pronounced this, and here's another story. So it's good.
It's just pronounced Jim. What are you doing?
That would be hilarious.
Hilarious.
Ha! See, I want to say hilarious.
I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry, Haley, Hallie,
and all listeners for that joke. Okay, hello. You may remember me or may not from Colorado Springs Comic-Con. I do, because I remember you telling me that you were going to tell me this story. But I was the person who had the story about the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park.
Yeah.
Now, what was funny about that convention is that Michael and I were together at the convention, and we were right next to each other. So anytime somebody came through that was like, I have a ghost story, we'd be like, excuse me, I'm going to have to pause your line so that we can both hear this ghost story together. What?
And I'd like to have to turn to our fans and be like, just 1 second, there's a ghost story. I think it's Haley.
It's Haley. That's okay, good. I'm glad that's why I want to say Haley. Okay, but of course, that was just the main big things that happened to us. They were mostly, wait, hold on. Sorry. Oh. They're mostly little things, but a few other big things did happen. So here we go. Okay. A few years ago, a friend and I planned a trip to the Stanley Hotel Hotel on a ghost tour. Of course, being rebellious 14-year-olds, we planned on staying for more than just the 2-hour tour. Just as we pulled up to the front door and walked in, my phone started to ring. It had no caller ID. Picking up the phone, there was absolutely no one on the other end. I stayed there for about a minute before hanging up. Looking at my screen, I noticed my phone battery had gone from 95% to 3% just by one phone call.
Wow.
So inevitably, my phone died thanks to me playing Crossy Roads while waiting for our tour to start. That phone call was what must have stirred up the energy for the next few encounters.
Uh-oh.
Now here's where the first thing happens. After our tour had begun, they took us up the stairs and onto the first floor of the tour. Everything had been silent so far, no creaks or anything. My friend and I were at the front of the group talking with our guide about his experience. I'm always about staying at the front of the group, and when you do a guided tour,
yeah, it's the best. You're right there because then you have the tour guide's ear,
yes.
and you can hear them better.
Yeah, stay to the front, and also the assholes usually go to the back and talk and are rude. I mean, that's just our experience.
Yeah,
we had a really bad time with some drunk bachelorette party folks, and we have yet to forgive them.
And it was what was otherwise one of the best tours we've ever been on.
I know. They were
those
awful.
Bachelorette bitches.
Anyway.
Just those, not bachelorette bitches in general.
No, they were just in that particular tour. Okay. They were talking with the guide about his experience, and as we round a corner going to our first location, the supply closet door slammed shut. I screamed like a little bitch, jumping back and into the poor person behind me that saved me from falling on my ass. We were unable to explain this. The door was open due to the cleaning people making the rounds in the rooms. There was no confirmed air draft, no loose hinges, nothing. Now, to the main and most terrifying moment of the tour. Once we reached the last spot in the tour, we were at a spot that is a common spot for a ghost named Lucy. We've heard about Lucy. They say that if you sit on the couch with your hands up and have a piece of candy, she will move it around. So my friend was holding a fireball in her hand. I'm guessing the candy and not just like a bottle of cheap alcohol.
Or an actual fireball.
Or, oh God, now I want it to be an actual fireball. This is very supernatural.
There's a lot of layers to this story.
I know. And on a hunch, I snapped some photos of her. As I reviewed the photos, I took a burst of at least 5. I noticed a shadowy body of what looked like a little girl dressed in a white dress. This was in the 3rd photo and gone in the 4th. Her hazy black hair could be seen, and she looked like she was looking dead at either me or possibly the phone camera in my hand.
Oh.
Her black eyes will forever haunt my dreams.
Oh. Ma!
Calling my friend and our guide over, I showed them the picture of the girl. Upon doing so, the guide confirmed it to be Lucy. Once the guide said her name, both my friend and I flipped the fuck out and immediately got goosebumps. We couldn't explain the picture, and I haven't seen anything through the screen or out of the corner of our eyes at the time. We tried recreating it and taking the same photos again, but what happened as we reviewed the photo again had forever stayed with me. My hair at this time was about to my waist, and I had it up in a semi-high ponytail to keep it out of my way as we went through the tour. The hair tie had a little silver Indian-looking trinket on it, and it was an eye-catcher to anyone who stood behind me. I'm standing with my back to an empty, I repeat, empty hallway. No one at all. And that hair tie got violently ripped from my hair and discarded at least 4 feet away from where I'm standing. Again, no one can explain this. We left the area immediately and finished up our tour. My friend and I were both shaken to the core and had a whole new respect for anything ghost-related. To this day, I still have minor things happen to me in my house. Things in my room will tip over even if they are standing on a secure platform. My 2 dogs will randomly bark at the entrance of my room door. My computer will randomly light up, and my Christmas lights, which I now leave unplugged, would randomly turn on at night. I'm sure she unplugged it after they kept turning on. Okay, and just last night, I'm writing this on August 28th on my way to school, I was scared awake at exactly 3 a.m., by something screaming into my ear.
Oh.
And the sheet of my bed getting pulled over my head. I don't know if it was my imagination or if I had covered my own head, but it gave me quite the scare and I couldn't sleep for the rest of the night. Oh, so good.
Damn. Shit.
Thank you so much for coming up to the Colorado Springs Con. It was a dream come true to meet you all. Aw, I still can't believe I got to meet you guys there, and my awkwardness allowed me to even form coherent sentences. It felt like a crazy dream come true. Now it's off to hell for me. Thanks for reading and considering my story. Sweet dreams, Haley. Or Hallie. Oh, yay.
Thank you.
That's so good. Oh, my gosh.
That's terrifying. That was a great story. Woo.
So good.
Woo.
Oh, man. If you have that picture, please send it to us.
Please, please, please.
Just Google. You can put it on Instagram if you want and tag us at Ghoul Intent, and we can share it from there. Ghoul Intentions on Instagram. Or you can just email it to ghoulintentionspodcast@gmail.com.
Please do. I want to see. I want to see.
Oh, so good.
Woo. Fireball. That's all I keep thinking about.
Yeah, Fireball.
The Pitbull song.
That's the chipper version, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. That's
good
such a
stories
story.
this
I know,
week,
you guys.
Good week.
Well
Common
done.
theme. Common theme.
Yeah.
I love it.
They kind of came in at the same time. I didn't read all yours. I was like, oh, this is about the Stanley. And I remember talking to Bonnie, and it was and we'll do this one and this one. So that was so good.
Awesome.
Ooh,
Well, thank you guys for sending them in.
Yes. Keep sending us your stories.
more.
Website at Ghoul Intentions.
Yes.
It's at the top of the menu. And is there anything else you can think of to say?
No, just we're excited about the Patreon starting in October. If you have any suggestions about things you'd like to hear us do, then or things you'd like to see, like merch-wise, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're certainly down to consider anything.
Yeah.
So
and you can message us on Twitter, which is Ghoul Intent.
Yep.
I've said this before. You can try messaging us on Instagram, but I still get confused about the messaging system. There's so many places to message us, but mainly I would stick to Twitter and also Ghoul Intentions, the website and the submissions, or just the email again, which is Ghoul Intentions Podcast at Gmail.
And for anyone out there that has listened to us but not left a review,
we haven't done that. Please
reviews.
leave reviews. That really is really.
We're getting a lot of
us.
listens. We're very happy about all the listens we're getting.
Yeah.
We want more reviews.
Yeah, if you
like
can
us,
take some time,
give us them stars.
It is very helpful for us if you guys could do that. Just go over there, give us a good review. Don't only do the best of reviews. Don't be like, I'm gonna give them a 4 because one time they had a cold. That's just shitty.
That's just
don't do that.
Rude. Don't be rude.
Sorry. So we would like your 5-star
reviews.
Be rude.
Our listeners.
No, not our listeners. 5-star reviews. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you again, you guys. This is so much fun. You are the best, and remember, it's okay to sleep with the lights on. I did it again. Testing.
Testicles.
Testes. 1, 2.
3.
That's a problem.